Hey everybody, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. So, I see that Charles Martin, who I think once said he walked the face of the earth like a god, has spoken to Sky Sports, I believe it was yesterday, and he was saying that he was prepared to fight Moses Itauma. So, I saw this and I thought, that's interesting. And now I see that two of my favourite boxing channels, Counterpunch in the USA and Joe Stunner in the UK, are reporting on this as well. So, I don't know. Like I say, when I saw it, I thought, Charles Martin, it's a little long in the tooth to be calling out young Moses Itauma. But, it appears that he's serious. He said... and I'm just looking at my notes to get the exact quote. "I will do anything to get another title shot. I fought Jared Anderson on 1 week's notice and had him hurt multiple times." He then went on to say that, with a full camp, he figures he could knock out young Moses. He said that I can KO anyone in the world, including a 20-year-old. Now, let's have a little look at the tail of the tape. Now, young Moses Itauma, who's aiming to beat Mike Tyson's record to become the youngest heavyweight champion ever, is currently 11-0 with 9 KOs. He's been devastating. Dempsey McKean recently was thought to be a fighter that would take Moses into maybe deeper waters and see what Moses was all about. Well... they were very shallow waters, and the only person who found out what was Dempsey, because Moses absolutely destroyed him. Moses is 6'2.5", and he's he's thought to be the new face of heavyweight boxing, right? Jared Anderson, was and still is, a hot American prospect, and it is fair to say that Charles Martin did give him some moments. He had him on Queer Street a couple of times. Of course, he wasn't successful, but maybe Charles Martin, who of course was a former world champion, who wasn't world champion for more than a couple of months, I think, before he lost to Anthony Joshua, and certainly that wasn't one of his better performances. He's got a record of 34-1, though he's only been stopped a couple of times. Of his 30 wins, 27 have been by KO, so he's considered to be heavy-handed. He's a big lad, there's no doubt. He's 6'5", and he, if in shape, he'd be about 240-ish, something like that. He seems... I would have thought that Charles Martin is probably a gatekeeper. Yeah, so it's not so silly it's probably not silly at all. When I first saw it, I thought, it was kind of weird. But I'm not sure if there's an upside for Moses. Now, one would assume, if this fight was to be made, that Moses would be a hot favourite, and the betting odds might even be prohibitive. Everybody would expect Moses to sort out Charles Martin, who, is at 38 years old. He's got to be at the tail end of his career, and while he's had some reasonable wins, he's not been. He's not the, even though he was a world champion, I don't think of Charles Martin as a super elite fighter. But if Moses takes that fight, he's fighting somebody old enough to be his dad. So there's an 18-year age difference, so easily old enough to be his dad. And it's a big but if Charles Martin was to either give Moses a very difficult fight, or, stranger things have happened, if he was able to beat Moses, where would that leave Moses Itauma? It isn't a devastating thing. I mean, these days people get way too wound up about preserving the zero. But I'm not actually sure if I see the upside for Moses taking it. Charles Martin is clearly sincere. I suppose it would be a fight that would be in the UK, or possibly would it be on a Riyadh card if it was ever to be made? Counterpunch Boxing makes an interesting comment. It would be good to see Moses go over to the States and fight. And I read quite a while ago, one of the trainers was saying that would be a good thing for Moses, actually. Though there is a bit of a history of young British fighters going over to the US and sort of coming unstuck. So, yeah. Interesting fight. I think it's an intriguing matchup. I would think that Moses would be a favorite if a fight's made. Yeah, I mean, it certainly could be a worthwhile watch. Personally, I'd like to see Moses go up against somebody who isn't so much of that sort of gatekeeper level. If Moses is serious about beating Mike Tyson's record, then he's got to be fighting somebody who is more highly rated, in my view. Charles Martin is saying that when he beats Moses, he'd like a crack at Daniel Dubois, which, I suppose if he beats Moses, we have to reassess Charles Martin, right? Anyway, please let me know what you think in the comments section. Do you think this is a fight that has some interest for you? Do you think it's a fight that could be made? Do you think there's any upside for Moses taking this fight? Clearly, there's an upside for Charles Martin, right? He's at the end of his career. He probably doesn't have that many big fights left in him. And rolling the dice with a young, hotshot, up-and-coming guy might propel him back into everyone's sort of attention span. But please let me know what you think. Okay, thank you very much. Have a fabulous day wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you on the next video. Cheers. Bye-bye.